It's great to be with you. My name is Matt Oliver. I'm part of the team at Tradecraft, and I'm going to be just this. The purpose of creating this talk was around Fair Trade Fortnight. To Lent is a period of preparation. We're always told to give up something for Lent, aren't we? Even as a small person, I was told to give up something for Lent, so I would give up chocolate, or I'd try and give up something that I didn't like very much. But I'm going to look at Lent slightly differently this way, not in a religious way, but actually to say, why not take something up for Lent? I assume you're on this call because you are a conscious consumer and you have some interest in the nature of fair trade. So, what I'm going to do in 45 minutes is give you 40 ideas of how fair trade makes a difference, what fair trade ideas you could take up. I don't expect you to take all 45 of them up. Oh, sorry, all 40 of them up. And I'm going to feed you with the proverbial fire hose for the next 40 minutes. Each slide has a number on it. So maybe make a note of the number of the slide if it was an area of interest for you. And it's not all about tradecraft either, because we believe fair trade is always bigger than tradecraft itself. And then Louise has a copy of the presentation, and she will get it distributed out to all of you, and you can go through all the 40 ideas at your leisure. And on each slide there is a link that will take you to further reading or further action to go on that slide. Does that make sense to everyone? So if you're ready, friends, eyes down for Full House. We will try and get this done as painlessly as possible. So if we're going to talk about fair trade, we probably should start right at the beginning. And with the fair trade mark. This is a mark that has such amazing recognition. I think it's 93% of all UK shoppers, when surveyed, would recognize this mark. You can walk into any shop, and if you see this on the front of a product, it tells you that it's fair trade. It tells you there's no slavery in the supply chain, that the producer was given a fair price, and a fair trade premium was paid on top as well. And it's been around for about 27 years, and Tradecraft helped create it. And one of the reasons that it was created was to give consumers that confidence that when they buy, they know they are buying something that is right, that is just, that is good as well. And so I think it really ticks that box. But what tells the difference between a fair trade product or a company that might sell the odd fair trade product? And 40 years ago, the goal of Tradecraft and other fair trade pioneers was to put fair trade in the mainstream. And many companies now sell fair trade products. But what makes the difference between a company that sells a few fair trade products and a company that is fair trade in its DNA? Well, at Tradecraft, we believe it's this. It's the World Fair Trade Organization. The World Fair Trade Organization, or the WFTO, to give it its more commonly known name, is an organization of fair trade companies. It's a group of fair trade companies, global there. And they are 355 retailers, of which Tradecraft is one, that have impacted nearly 1 million lives. And these people are fair trade in their DNA. You have to be audited. A consultant comes and they ask you all sorts of questions. They make sure not only that your supply chain is fair trade, but the way you treat your customers is fair, and the way you treat your staff is fair. It's a very detailed process, and you have to be audited regularly. We were last audited when I joined Tradecraft 4 years ago. I'd been there for about 6-7 months, and I was very new to fair trade. Then I'd come from Lidl. So I was sat down with the consultant, and they said, "Can you name the 10 principles of fair trade?" You can see them on your screen there, and these are the 10 principles of fair trade as by the WFTO. And I was confidently rattling them off, and I rattled off 9 of them, and then my mind went blank, like it does in these situations. And I'm thinking, this is terrible. I've probably cost Tradecraft, the founder of the WFTO, the founder of the Fair Trade Foundation, I probably cost us our license, because I can't remember the 10th thing. I really can't remember it. And the consultant very kindly said to me, "Matt, what is it you do most of the time?" I said, "Well, most of the time I tell people about fair trade." And she said, "Yeah, that's the one you've forgotten." So we did get the certification, and you look out for that, because it really separates those that are serious about fair trade from those who just do the odd product. Because what that certification does in the first one, that tells you that the minimum amount of ingredients that are in a product that could be fair trade have reached that minimum threshold. What we do at WFTO level is to say that this company does so much more. And then if you want to bring that closer to home, there's an organisation called BAFS, the British Association of Fair Trade Shops and Suppliers. Now, BAFS is just like a UK wide network of shops and suppliers of people who are passionate about fair trade, and they use the principles of the WFTO in all that they do. And it's about 300 or so independent shops and about 100 suppliers who work with producers around the world. One of the things that we're moving in Tradecraft, we see is increasingly people are moving to a vegetarian and vegan diet for various reasons. And I'm going to be involving the environment in this talk quite a lot because this year's theme is for the Fair Trade Fortnight is the environment. And if we're really honest, friends, for the last 40 years of fair trade that Tradecraft's been around, the conversation about the environment and the conversation about fair trade were quite separate. We did care about the planet, of course, but it wasn't our primary reason for existing. Now we believe that really the future of those two things have to go together. And environmentalists that talk about just the planet, but I have this argument with them sometimes, and I say, well, so it's okay that it's organic if children grew it or there was slavery in the supply chain. And of course, it isn't right if that happens. And then you talk to our fair trade purists and they say, well, it's all about giving money to the producer, which is correct. But then what if that producer's soil goes bad after years because they've been using fertilizers and terminator seeds, and they want to be able to pass on their soil to someone else? So we really are concerned about the environment and reducing meat consumption. I'm a meat eater. My wife's a vegetarian, but she makes me help them out every now and again. And one of the ways we can, one of the 5 ways we could really affect climate change in globally is our reduction of meat. So, for example, now I only eat meat that's organic and local. It hasn't traveled more than 30 miles in the area that I'm in, and I only eat it if it's organic as well, so it's had a good life. But I discovered this thing called silvopasture, and very simply it's this: it's cows and animals that have grazed where trees grow. And that really helps with mitigating the CEO levels, because the trees obviously like to eat CEO and they breathe out oxygen. Look it up. It would save 31.1 gigatons of carbon emissions. My colleague Robin, who's the CEO of Tradecraft and a fellow storyteller, he was once in India and was talking to a lady called Vandana Shiva. Vandana is a very famous environmentalist and speaker, and they were talking about what the farmers needed at that time. And he said, what would this farmer say to me is the most important thing? At that time, he was working for fair trade internationally. And the Vandana said, healthy soil. That's what the farmer would say is the most important thing for them. There is only so much topsoil available. And so we really believe the future of fair trade is organic. And so we're trying to help farmers to go organic. My dear departed mum used to say she bought some organic meat once, and she rang me up and said, Matthew, I don't know what you're talking about because it doesn't taste any better. And bless her, she kind of missed the point. You know, it's not about the taste of it; it's about the environmental impact and the welfare of the animal as well, or the welfare of the crop moving forward. And so then Robin asked, well, what is the second most important thing? And she said the farmer would say a happy wife. And the third most important thing, happy children. And they went on and on and on. And the 8th most important thing was the fair trade premium. That's not to say it wasn't important to them, but it's all about getting things into perspective when we actually talk to people on the ground about what they need. Palm oil. You probably have heard some terrible things about palm oil. I see some ears prick up. He's mentioning palm oil. Well, actually, have you ever heard of a thing called Fair Palm? We created it. Fair Palm uses sustainable palm oil. Palm oil is a wonderful, wonderful product, a wonderful, wonderful tree. The terrible thing is that we knock down rainforests and kill orangutans because we value it more highly than they do. Well, what we do at Tradecraft is we work with historic plantations and plantations where the palm oil plant is grown in the space between trees in the orchard, so that when you've had the harvest from an orchard from a fruit tree, then you can later in the year take the harvest from the fair palm tree as well in the same field, and you don't have to destroy the planet to create it. And you'll find our fair palm products in all of our cookies and in other products as well. And we would challenge you to challenge anyone where there's fair palm, where there is palm oil, why on earth they don't use fair palm. there. So maybe think about that. Then the Fair Trade Premium, I mentioned that slightly earlier. It's a really brilliant thing. It's one of the things I love and introduced me to fair trade. With fair trade, there will be a set of standards for a product that say sugar, and we say there is a set price for sugar, and that set price is guaranteed to the farmer, even if the market price was to drop, or and they would get messed around by other people. So it guarantees them what they're going to get. On top of that is what's called the Fair Trade Premium. It's normally around about 10%, especially in craft items. And what I love about fair trade, and what removes it from the whole colonial thought of us in the Western developed world telling people what to do, is that the Fair Trade Premium is for the local people, the community, the farmer, to decide what it is they do with that premium. It's not for us to decide what to do with that. And I absolutely love that. So this is Apicorp, a group of people that we work that help make our honey. And they were really struggling getting the barrels of honey down off the hill where the bees live. And they used their premium to buy a barrow cart, so that they didn't have to have two people breaking their backs to carry the things down the hill. I've heard of other people spending their fair trade premium on a bus shelter. And you think, why on earth are you spending your fair trade premium on a bus shelter? Well, they work in a place where it has a rainy and a dry season. And in the dry season, it's too hot for their workers and they're sitting out in the sun. And in the wet season, they're getting soaked in a monsoon. So the most important thing for them was to keep their workers healthy on their way to and from work. So they built a bus shelter that was suitable for their needs. It's for them to decide. That's the wonderful nature of fair trade. At Tradecraft, we really take the environment seriously. We have some very complex issues with this. And put your hands up if you would like to see less plastic in the world. You know, we all want to see less plastic in the world because of the harm it does to the environment, because of the in terms of animal life, and especially in our oceans and what it's doing to them as well. But ironically enough, if we removed all plastic, it would make no difference to climate change in real sense, but it would make a difference to marine life, and that's why it's so important. What a difficult thing for an organization like Tradecraft or any small retailer is that if you are reliant on someone else to manufacture your product for you, like we are, we don't actually make anything. We just create the recipes and we buy it and we bring in the product for someone else to physically make it for us. You're reliant on their machinery. And so you're also reliant on economies of scale. So we have to sometimes buy 2 or 3 years worth of packaging just to be able to justify keeping the cost as low as we humanly can. And of course, if it's biodegradable packaging, it might not last long enough before it gets used. But despite that, every time that packaging gets used up, we look to see if there's a healthy and environmentally friendly alternative. And here you have all these sweets that we have. I can proudly tell you all the packaging that you see on that screen is biodegradable and compostable in your home compost, including the gold wrappers on the butterscotch sweets, the outer wrappers on all the sweets. So that reduces the lifespan of our product, but we feel it's more important that the environment is protected. So we're totally plastic free in our sweets, and we review it on everything else that we do as well, as and when that packaging comes up. When all of this the pandemic is finished in June, some of you will be desperate for a holiday. Why not have a fair trade one?
You may know about fair trade, but have you ever thought about meeting the people and places behind the products? For over 15 years, we've been working with Tradecraft to develop a range of inspiring holidays, enabling travellers to visit producers far from the tourist trail. As part of these holidays, you'll encounter wonderful scenery, amazing people, and plenty of unforgettable experiences too.
Meet the People tours are really a life-changing thing. I'm really looking forward to going on one day. It's the only way I could really justify flying these days, I think, to be able to actually meet the people that we could help. Maybe if you've been on one or had an experience, you could drop something in the chat to share with your experience with everybody today. Going back to the environment, you hopefully have seen our catalogue over the years, and my wife has just looked at the new catalogue, the spring one. She said it's the best one she's seen. She thought the Christmas one was good, but this one is even better. And what you might not know is our commitment to the environment even stretches to our catalogue. So you would expect it to be made on FSC certified paper, etc. But did you know the ink that we used is all vegetable based, and also that we even made sure that the photographer that we used had their lighting powered by solar power, so that we were almost carbon neutral in the production of our catalogue this time round. And there is the wonderful John in our warehouse. John has been one of our stalwarts for over 20 years at Tradecraft, and he's modeling our new plastic-free tape, which costs a fortune, but is absolutely worth it. It's brilliant stuff. So we really like that there. Now, who would have thought you could even get fair trade about football and rugby? And having just come away from the television screaming that England lost to Wales, I'll show you this little video now.
This is a film about football and fair trade. Most of us know a fair amount about football. It's the beautiful game. Give anyone, anywhere, any age of football, and they'll start kicking it around. If we're not playing it, we're watching it. And a lot of us know a bit about fair trade. Many people who produce the things we enjoy and rely upon don't get paid fairly for their work. That means they could struggle to feed their families, send children to school, and pay for medicines. Fair trade means that the farmers and workers living in developing countries who grow our food and the cotton in our clothes get a better deal. You might have seen the fair trade mark when you're out shopping. There are over 4,500 products that carry the fair trade mark. This means a better deal for the people who grow our tea, coffee, bananas, sugar, cocoa, footballs. But you can't grow a football, so what do footballs have to do with fair trade? And firstly, how do you even make a football?
To find out, you'll have to watch the rest of the video. But Bala Sports is a wonderful organisation that make fair trade footballs from Sri Lanka and from India of top quality as well. So if you don't like football or rugby or netball, you'll know somebody who does, I'm sure. Right. Zaytoon, another one of our partners. What a wonderful organization they are. The Zaytoon work predominantly with Palestinian farmers in the Holy Land. This is the story of Haj Rafiq Hussein, who farms an ancient farmland. And now, what you may not be aware of is because of the hostilities over Israel and Palestine, that there are great swathes of road and walls that have been created. So it's quite common for somebody who has an ancient olive grove to have woken up a few years ago with a wall in the middle of their land, and they will have to walk. They can tend one part of their crop, then they have to walk a mile, maybe 2 or maybe even 3 miles to a checkpoint, go through the checkpoint and come up the other side to be able to tend a field that their family have traditionally tended for hundreds and hundreds of years. Also, it's not uncommon to wake up in the morning to find that olive trees that are nearly 1,000 years old plus have been ripped out of the ground, or their irrigation is not available. Zaytoon works with these farmers and helps them bring their product to market. It's a wonderful product, beautiful products. You can click on the link underneath Haj Rafiq, and you will be able to see his story in more detail. What a lot of you don't know is if you order through Alex and Louise with their fair trade, that quite often our fair traders, they make a top-up donation. If they ever make a profit or a surplus from what they sell to you, it normally goes in one of 2 places. It either goes to the church or Christian Aid, or if not, it goes to our sister charity, Tradecraft Exchange. And quite often when they make an order as well, it might come to something and a few pence. And they will say top up, just top that up. So it might come to £35.60, and they say that will make it £36. So they top up by 40 pence. This is just a slide to say that those donations really do add up to about £1,000 a week to Tradecraft Exchange from all of our customers. And maybe the next time you're making an order from us and it comes to something in a few pence, you might round it up to the nearest pound, because that gives the charity, which is a separate organisation to the PLC, that gives it undesignated funds that it can use at most need at a moment's notice as well. So maybe consider next time you're making that purchase, just to round it up to the nearest pennies. It really is a widow's mite offering, and does get multiplied several times over. Another thing I love about fair trade is in its heart and in its DNA, it's about the empowerment of people, but it has been particularly about the empowerment of women in business as well. If we're going to link that to the environment, most studies say that one of the top 5 things that we can do, as well as eating less meat, is the education of women would reduce climate change significantly. Now, Tradecraft has been involved in that for many years. And we want to educate women to be able to run their own businesses as well. This is a group that we work with in Western Honduras called APROLMA. I can never pronounce it very well. Apologies for that. But it's 69 lady members who each own 1.5 hectares of coffee growing beans, and they work in a cooperative together and they run their business together. And most of them are under 35 years old. And we use their beans in our wonderful Eat Your Hat Honduras coffee, which is a really, really fine tasting coffee. So fair trade is also about the empowerment of women as well, and the education of women. Now, some of you may have heard of Tradecraft for quite some time, been with us for a long time. Give me a show of hands if you've been involved or heard of us for more than 10, 15 years. Yeah, great. Thank you so much for your continued support of us, and especially in this last 2 years when we've started Tradecraft 2, and I can tell you about that later in the Q&A if you want. Well, if I say the words to you, campaign coffee, some of you will start wincing or laughing. And the campaign coffee, basically, friends, was disgusting. It tasted really, really bad. Yes, Liz, I can see Liz there is smiling away. She remembers it. Sue does, and Louise. I often say it's responsible for the death of many aspidistras in many front rooms, because your host would serve you this and say, look, you're helping someone in the developing world. You take one sip of it, and then when they left the room, you just poured it out into the nearest pot plant. But the days of that are gone. We have to produce a quality product that people are really interested in and want to buy and can see the difference it makes. And we're really proud that our tea is one of the only 3-star great taste teas in the country now, and it's because we flush it with nitrogen as soon as we pick it. It keeps it fresh. We're educated to have bad stale tea in this country. That's what we're educated to. When you open this tea, it smells almost like cut grass. It's what the plantation smells like. I'm reliably informed, and it's what tea should taste like back on the plantation. So it's wonderful to see that there. But the frightening thing is only 8% of the tea we drink, and we are a nation of tea drinkers, as we like to be reminded quite often. Only 8% of the tea we drink is actually fair trade, which is absolutely crazy. Talking about trees, our sister charity Tradecraft Exchange have actually got this wonderful thing happening between the 8th of March and the 7th of June called the Regenerator Appeal. Any gifts that are given to them in that time will be doubled by the government. We've managed to secure that. So they're setting a target of being able to raise £500,000, and that will be doubled by the government. One of the things they also have teamed up with is a company that if you plant a tree with the Regenerators Appeal, another tree will be planted to match your planting as well, to help the environment. Another tree planting idea is from our friends back at Zaytoon. This is a wonderful gift set, a 500ml olive oil bottle in a presentation case and a certificate. I bought this for my mother-in-law for Christmas, and she absolutely loved the fact that there was a tree being planted back in the Holy Land with her gift here. What I'm hoping is she's so enamored with the certificate that she's getting a tree planted, she won't notice that I'm going to take the olive oil back at some point and use it myself. You can also get fair about how you do your investments. And our founder, Richard Adams, 40 years ago, started up Tradecraft, and 10 years later left to start up Shared Interest.
Dave lives in the UK. He works hard, sends his children to school, and goes to the doctor if he needs to. Dave drinks coffee and dreams of a fairer world. Maria lives in Peru. She works hard but cannot afford to send her children to school or go to the doctor. Maria grows coffee and dreams of a fairer world. Dave doesn't think he's rich, but he has some spare money and knows he can borrow from the bank if he needs to. Maria doesn't think she's poor, but she only gets paid once a year and has to use expensive money lenders in the months before harvest. Wouldn't it be good if Dave could lend some of his money he doesn't need right now to Maria, and she could repay him when she'd sold her coffee? In 1990, we set up a special society to make this possible. Dave and people like him in the UK put money into a share account and we lend it to Maria and people like her all over the world. It's called Shared Interest, and it's our way of investing in a fairer world. Last year we sent £62.9 million from the pooled savings of our members, that's people like Dave, to almost 400 fair trade organisations that include people like Maria in 63 countries across the globe. And as they repay us, we lend the money again and again and again. Dave and Maria really do have a shared interest, and you can too. With just £100, you can open a shared interest account and start investing in a fairer world.
Okay, fair trade towns. Do you know that your town could be a fair trade town? The very first fair trade town was in Garstang in Lancashire, near where I live in Lytham St Anne's, and it was founded in 2001. There's a set of criteria you go through, and your town can actually receive fair trade town status or fair trade city status, and that's run by the Fair Trade Foundation, which we helped found over 25 years ago. And over 1.5 million people a year are involved in outreach projects around fair trade towns and cities. You can also make your place of worship, if you have one, a fair trade place of worship. That can be your mosque, your synagogue, your temple, or your church, and there is a certification process for that. And I often say, as a guy who goes to church myself, is our welcome fair. You always get tea and coffee after church, don't you? And is our welcome fair, is our hospitality fair? And the gift of hospitality is such an important thing there. And then some people say, well, some people donate some PG tips so that there's tea and coffee to give out to people, and I think they don't want to waste it. And so someone else told me that they came up with this idea that they would give their tithe or their offering as being the fair trade tea and coffee and toilet roll and soap in their church as well. So that was a way that they encourage people to go fair around that. You can also go to fair trade schools. I've not got a picture of school there, sorry, but you can do the same thing to ensure that there's fair trade in your workplace, fair trade in your school, that in the staff room there's fair trade tea and coffee, that there are education classes for the children as well about fair trade, and maybe they could even run a fair trade store themselves during fair trade fortnight. But Mother's Day is upon us soon. And you may want to think about a different gift for Mum this year if you're not able to see her in person. And Tradecraft Exchange does a series of virtual gifts that are given by card. So they can be a micro loan for someone to set up a business. They can be a loan. They can be a grant to educate ladies in business. They can be for any number of things. There's about half a dozen different virtual gifts that you can send via a card this year. But if, like my poor dear departed mum, you like flowers for your mum, make sure they're fair trade, friends, this year. You may out of season flowers, fair trade flowers. Has anyone ever seen fair trade flowers before? Might be something that some of you seen, some of you might not have seen it. A lot of supermarkets actually do this very well. Fair trade flowers normally come from Africa. A lot of them come from Kenya. And here's a little thing that might surprise you, that actually there is less carbon input emissions from flowers that come from Kenya than the ones that are force grown in Holland. Because they're grown naturally, they're irrigated naturally, there's no forced lighting, there's no forced irrigation, and the journey is by boat and not by truck, and actually it's 6.5 times less carbon, less energy needed to produce out of season roses from Kenya than there are from their Dutch counterparts. As they say, not a lot of people know that. And then there's fair trade wine. Another 10 minutes is me speaking, and you'll all be heading for the nearest bottle, I'm sure. But we helped create the fair trade wine standards back in 2001, and then we gave it away to the co-op. And so you can go into any supermarket now, and you should be able to find fair trade wine from the global south. One thing you should know, that whether you buy fair trade wine or not, if you spent less than £5 on your bottle, then you're talking about pennies that went to the person who grew the grape, literally pennies. So be wary of any bottle of wine that is below £5 in price. And as my wife always says, and according to the fridge market magnet on our fridge, life is too short for bad wine. We also helped create the fair trade standards for cotton back in 2006, but we knew nothing about the rag trade, and so now we partner with people who are in the fashion business, and particularly with Thought and Pachamama. I'm wearing a Thought top tonight made from fair trade cotton, and we sell fair trade and organic cotton on our website from our partners in Thought. And we love to introduce new people to the fair trade conscious consumer. This is Vent Stationery. Just before the first lockdown, my colleague Kirsty and I visited a thing called the Spring Fair, which is basically an exhibition show for people who sell to retailers. And it's held at the NEC. There's 16 halls full of people trying to sell you stuff. It's just a craziness, and they're trying to sell it to retailers. It is not the place to go if you're trying to advocate less consumption. It really isn't. So we were walking around there, and there was a newcomer's slot, and somebody on a small table, a lady there, started telling us about this stationery, and I thought, well, there's something about this. And then eventually she let it go that it was fair trade, and that every pencil that is bought, every packet of pencils that is bought, they commit to sending pencils to children in school in Africa, and that their pens are made from recycled CDs, and there's recycled paper, and it's really wonderful quality stuff. I've switched. I used to use Moleskine notebooks. Now I use my Vent notebook all the time. Wonderful stuff, and it's been lovely for us to introduce them to a committed group of conscious consumers as well. And now eventually, you know, they say there's one thing certainly you can't avoid is death and taxes. Well, you can even have a fair trade funeral. I did mention that my mum passed away a year and a half ago, and it was with the greatest honor that I could get her a fair trade coffin. We work with Oasis Coffins to certify their bamboo coffins to make sure that they adhere to fair trade standards. But here's the thing, friends, when you walk into a funeral home, and they won't offer you this, you have to ask for it. And I was in a cooperative funeral home. You would think they might know about it. The chap had never heard of it, and he'd been in funeral homes for years. He had to go and find the folder, and he said, "Oh yes, we do it." And I was really delighted to be able to do that for her, because they offer you a set package. They just taught to offer you a set package, which doesn't include a fair trade send off. And I was really glad we were fortunate enough to be able to do that for my mum. The last one about death, I promise, but you might want to consider leaving a donation to Tradecraft Exchange in your will, which would really help them be able to continue to campaign. Little things that fair trade, the Tradecraft Exchange do that you might not know is that before the Brexit, when the Brexit result came in and before Brexit happened, they managed to convince government that the world's 40 poorest countries would not pay extra tariffs on their goods post Brexit, and now their job is to keep government to that promise 4 years later. Or you might want to commemorate and celebrate the life of someone that you've lost by giving a gift to Tradecraft Exchange as well. Do you know that 2 out of 5 people would expect that their employer provide fair trade tea and coffee? It's all part of that welcome that we talk about. I was talking about in church earlier, but this is in your workplace. Does your workplace provide fair trade tea and coffee? Well, it's really easy to set up a catering account with us, or to order through Louise and other fair traders enough tea and coffee for your workplace, and it can really make a difference and start a conversation in the canteen. Transparency is at the very heart of the principles of fair trade. We think it's transparency, dialogue, and respect. These are the principles of fair trade which we try and put into commercial practice. But even in the fair trade world, you quite often hear people say, well, how much of this goes to the producer? You might have heard this. I see some nodding heads there. And actually in the fair trade world, even in the fair trade world, people are a bit cagey about telling you about how much goes to the producer sometimes, for no malice, but we're protective of commercial sensitivities. Well, we've decided that it's our job at Tradecraft too to break all the rules, and to get into good trouble. That's what we believe we were set up to do in our founder, and we're going back to his original thoughts in that. So we've decided to go transparent with all of our products. Excuse me, sorry. And so this wagon wheel here tells you exactly where everything goes on every one of our products, and we're hoping that all of our friends in the fair trade world and beyond might be brave enough to join us in this journey. We launched this on Black Friday last year as a protest, and so you can see from the ground coffee there that £1.96 is the cost of overhead, so that pays for our offices in Gateshead, it pays for me, it pays for the electricity bill and the gas, and etc, etc. And you can see that 65 pence of that is for the packaging that it came in and the cost of roasting it, etc. 49 pence of it is customer discounts that we give to retailers and to fair traders so that they can sell it without being out of pocket. And then you can see that £1.07 is the cost of ingredients. That's what the producer gets. So out of the £4 of that particular retail price, £1.07 is what the producer gets. And then Tradecraft makes the grand total of 0.08 pence profit net from the sale of that bag of coffee, isn't it, in this case? Sorry, not sugar. And you can see that on our website for all of our products there. We're working with many like-minded people these days, and one of them is Just Trading Scotland. Lovely partners in fair trade. This is a thing called their jams and their spreads from Maru herbs. Just a short video about how it's made.
At the heart of Tharaka Nithi County in Kenya lies a company that is greatly invested in transforming the lives of local farmers. Since its establishment, Meru Hubs has been keen on alleviating the challenges faced by small-scale farmers in Kenya, such as climate change, poor pest and disease control, and over-reliance on outdated technology. By providing training on best farming practices, Kenyan farmers are now being equipped with the necessary skills they need to flourish in agribusiness. Through partnerships with organizations like JTS, Meru Hubs has also successfully connected local farmers to the global market, facilitating the exportation of a vast array of products such as jams and sauces. This has empowered farmers, uplifted communities, and grown the economy, changing the lives of hundreds of farmers and their families. And that's the story of Meru Hubs.
Really lovely product. The pasta sauces fly out. We've just got the jams delivered as well. Tradecraft Exchange, we're going to do a sponsored walk across the Kilimanjaro way, the walk that's in Spain. Forgive me if I get the wrong name of that, but because of COVID, they've not been able to. So they're challenging people to maybe consider doing a 100-kilometer walk to raise awareness and funds for fair trade in April. You can find out details about it there. And then with Easter coming, I'm not sure what the rules are going to be. I don't know if we can have a socially distanced barbecue, provided that the wind is in the right direction and you're not in the same county, or whether we are going to be able to even just wave at each other through a window. So maybe consider sending an Easter egg this year. We have the real Easter egg, which will tell the true story of Easter, as well as the delicious Easter eggs from our friends at Divine. And we have a wonderful set of Easter cards. Christmas cards were boom this year. I think because we couldn't be with family, we sent more cards and more beautiful cards. We've got some that aren't on this screen, which are hand stitched beautiful cards from Sri Lanka, and there's one of a kingfisher which just really stands out. You'll see it in the catalogue when you look at it. Really fabulous. We do hand-held wooden crosses from the Holy Land. So this Easter, why not send a card or send an Easter egg to someone that you won't be able to see and someone that you love. Then Tradecraft Exchange as well are doing a raffle, which is to help raise funds to support most vulnerable workers at this time of year, to help them post-COVID. And Bake Off it's been I was put on furlough and discovered Bake Off for the first time. In apparently it's been going for years. It's such a big thing, and it's a real cultural phenomenon. Well, we're joining in with Bake Off, and we've got the wonderful Sarah and Rio in our digital marketing team. They think that they're Mary Berry, and they've started to create some recipes. So online now, we've got a couple of recipes there for them, and we've got blogs that have got various recipes as well. Here's a glimpse of Sarah. We've had to put subtitles because she's so Geordie, I can't understand.
So today I'm going to be showing you how to make a very simple breakfast dessert recipe that I've recently discovered and have been loving. So first you'll need to take a standard roasting tin and 2 bananas, fair trade bananas if you can. You want to peel those and put them in the tin. Next up, you want to mash those bananas. So just take a normal fork and mash the bananas into your baking tin. So now that's all mashed up and looking disgusting, I assure you it ends up tasting great. You want to add about a cup of oats. So I'll just tip those in. Next up, we are adding flax seeds. Flax seeds are a great source of omega-3. They're really good for you. So use as many as you like. Fine, it's all going to be lovely and tasty. And now I'm going to pop this in the oven for 30 minutes on 180 degrees. Add some Greek yogurt. And then I've just topped that off with some honey there. So I've chosen to use Tradecraft's organic Mexican honey. And then I'm just going to add a few little extra bits of fruit. I'm adding some blueberries there, but you can add whatever fruit you like. And that's all good to go.
So you can see a lot of fun there can be done with Fair Trade Bake Off, maybe with your community. Do a Fair Trade version of things there, and you can use Sarah and Rio's videos. And I was only joking about not understanding what she says. They're really great too.
Enjoy.
Right. And when you've made your cakes, you might consider having a virtual Big Brew. We've been running Big Brews for years with our friends at Tradecraft Exchange to get people talking about fair trade. There's a resource pack that can be downloaded. Normally they're done in person, but you could do a Zoom version just like this, where everyone brings their cake and tea and can sit down and have a natter about all things fair trade and catch up. Or maybe you want to go into a bit deeper with your reading. We've got a book out at the moment by Joe Osman, who was with us almost from day one, right up until our 40th anniversary when he retired. So 40 years history of fair trade. Some other books that I've got, just taking some pictures out there that helped me with the environment and with my thinking and challenged me. Bea Johnson's book Zero Waste, where she encourages people to refuse, reuse and recycle. The refuse comes from when she gets offered an award for her work on zero waste, and she says, I don't want another piece of plastic on my shelf, so I'm not going to take your award. But so you're going to have to rethink it. So she challenges the people about that. Who Profits is the only time I'll ever tell you to go to Amazon, friends. If you can get a copy of Who Profits, it's the original book 10 years after the starting of Tradecraft by our founder, Richard Adams. If you can find a copy of that, it tells you all about their hijinks and adventures in getting the whole thing working. And those of you who like a little bit of economics, Schumacher's book, Small is Beautiful, Economics as If People Mattered, is a really fabulous read as well. The pink one there is Be More Pirate, which is a glimpse into how we structured ourselves based on the reading that book. We weren't advocating piracy, by the way, but yeah, I'll let you read it or Google it to find out more. We also do fair trade barbecues through the co-op, and we certify that line there in 2009. And we also launched fair trade rubber gloves and gardening gloves made of rubber as well, when we certify the supply chain on that. 2 more to go. Who would have thought in 2021 that face masks would become the norm and we have to wear them everywhere we go? And I don't know about you, but as I walk the streets, I find more and more disposable ones that are just in the gutter. And it's quite bad, really. So you can have a fair trade face covering, and we sell them. We do in various colors and different forms as well. So have a look online, and they're all certified by BAFS members. And then finally, something for the kids. We've got Fair Trade Fortnight, some resources there. We've got a climate change crossword, a Fair Trade facts quiz, and a mindfulness colouring set. So there you go. The fire hose is done. 40 ideas in 44 minutes. Over to you.
Thanks so much for that, Matt. Thank you very much indeed. It was totally inspiring, loads of interesting things. Can I perhaps kick off with asking you a little bit more about the shared interest investment? I'm a credit union member, so I've kind of got an interest in community and cooperative savings and investments. So I just wondered where I can get more information.
Yes, on the slide, when you get the slides, there is a link to shared interest website.
Okay.
The minimum investment's £100.
Yeah.
And what I love about it is it's a development loan for that business. It's like a business
Yes,
loan.
right.
You're treating someone like a business person. It's not a handout, and then that money can be circulated around and round and round once it's been paid.
Brilliant.
Once it's been paid back. And I was actually shocked by the amount that they distribute. It's like £60 million. Not particularly well known. It's lovely people, and they do a lot of work in supporting the fair trade part of that, supporting the producer, and there's it's not just like you can come up with an idea and say, can I have a loan to get going? It's normally about taking a existing fair trade business to another level.
Brilliant. Good.
So it's not a speculative investment. It's not like someone that I could turn up to them and say, oh, I've got an idea about fair trade bicycle tires. They would say, well, what have you done about that? What's your trading history? Who are you working with? And I think they need to see it have been running for a couple of years, I think, before that they give the investment.
That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, and I shall have a look on the slides for the further information.
When you get the slides, every slide that you're interested in has a link to find out more.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Can I hand back over to Louise now, who's been watching the chat and looking at the questions?
The main thing was to remind at this point that there's we do have a fair trade bake thing happening, which Siobhan is running, which I'm plugging at the end of the whole screen as well, called Fair Trade Brighton Home Bakes. And then Susie Oddball's got a question: are there many gluten-free foods on offer? I know you we have had some, because I know I've sold them in the past, Matt.
Yes, all of our now you've got me going and I can't remember one, but yes, there are. We do have some gluten-free. I'm trying to desperately think. I think with the dark.
Can I just say I've just shared the link to the chat of your page of gluten-free stuff from the shop online.
Thank you. You've saved my bacon. I know that we have some. I know that we have some. We do gluten-free as well. Yeah.
There's a lot of people in Brighton who ask for that. So and more savouries as well. Less sweet things would be good.
Yeah, it's very difficult. 40 years ago, let's be honest, we were a business that was created peddling sugar. And now tastes have gone on, and we need less sugar in our diet. It's very hard for us to change that, but we do hear it. Yeah, so that's why we've introduced pasta and other things like that.
Just introduce lentils and other bits and pieces.
So lentils, chickpeas, and split peas, I think,
something like that.
Yeah, they came in last week, but we still have sweet treats for people like me.
Well, we do need them. It's nice to have a bigger range of fair trade savouries, and like when we go to artists open houses here, it's always cake. I would rather have a cheese scone or something like that, or scone or spoon, wherever you come from.
There's always the thing. My friends who are in ministry, when they get a new parish, say that they put on about 1.5 stones in the first couple of months when they visit everyone, and just everyone's baked them a cake. But yeah. So any other questions, friends, from the talk? Can I ask you a question? Did you find out something in that talk that you might want to go and look at something in a little bit more detail? Just a general nod there. That's wonderful. And was there something in there that you didn't know? Well, that's great, especially amongst a group of fair trade enthusiasts as well. For me, the key thing, just briefly to wrap up my time, is I would love to say thank you to you all and your support of Tradecraft, especially in this last 2 years. As you know, 2 years ago, we nearly closed. A group of us got together and felt that Tradecraft's race was not over. We wanted to honour our Tradecraft of the past and the principles that Richard Adams created. We really felt that job was done in a sense. If you wanted to buy a fair trade product, you can. If you the Fair Trade Foundation is there to give consumers confidence, but we were set up to put the principles of fair trade that I mentioned, transparency, dialogue, into commercial practice. And we want to be a successful business so that we can finally challenge big business to do things differently. We don't want to make a profit for the sake of making profit, but until we are a profitable business and we inspire other fair trade and ethical businesses to be profitable businesses, big business can just say it's charity and not have to change. And we really want to challenge that. We want to challenge the status quo. So Tradecraft 2, as we call it, is about creating a platform for a successful business that they can challenge business to change what it does.
I don't think there's any other questions. I think there are comments and you can scroll through those.
May 51 has just started a partnership with Tradecraft, and what lovely Stuart has been amazing supporting us and helping us as we find our way through navigating Brexit and all the nightmare that's been going on with that. So I'm gonna, everyone can see my screen now. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Well,
Okay.
I can anyway.
So I'm going to fly through this. So Made 51 is an initiative founded by the United Nations High Commission for Refugees. So there are 80 million displaced people in the world, of which 26 million under a mandate of UNHCR. And what we often forget is 85% of them are hosted in low-income countries. This is Mali, Burkina Faso, Tanzania, Pakistan. These are the countries that are willingly hosting refugees and looking after them in millions and hundreds of thousands of refugees who are flooding across the borders and creating this crisis that we're dealing with today, global crisis. As people travel, they often carry very, very little with them, but they do carry with them their heritage, their skills, their culture. And so UNHCR has been looking at the refugees in the camps, in the urban refugees, and identifying those refugees who have carried skills with them. Some of them don't even know that they've done it. Sometimes it's come together through rehabilitation groups where particularly women come together, they talk about the trauma that they've been through, and they share activity together, making their trauma reduced by activity together. And through that, they realize the potential, they have potential to earn money and income from it. So UNHCR focused on the craft market. It's actually a 36 billion US dollar market. And it is one that if we look around our homes today, it's everybody's home's got it. It's just that sometimes we don't see it when we're looking. And it's a way that particularly women can work, they can base it around the refugee activities they have in the day. So there's extremely difficult things like getting water, getting food, sorting out their children's education. And the thing that really shocked me when I first, it's very difficult to get into a refugee camp. I can't, even though I work with UNHCR, I can't just walk into a refugee camp. But in order to deliver this program, I've had access. And the thing that really amazes me is that so many women and so many children, and because the men have sort of gone through permeable places, they're working in rubbish picking, they're doing all the jobs they can, and the women are in the refugee camps, and they also want to earn money, but they have a huge pile of other work that they have to get on with. So And this is where the fair trade comes in. So UNHCR identify the artisans that have the skills, and then we identify a fair trade enterprise that is prepared to work with those artisans. So we look at, so for example, as Matt mentioned earlier, the WFTO members, so we work with in Earth Air, we work with Yadawi. These are social enterprises which have been recognised by WFTO. And we know that if we work with like Tradecraft, so the equivalent of Tradecraft in other countries, and that way the UN is not putting itself at risk by working with businesses that we don't know where their money's going or what their motivation is. So we work with fair trade to integrate refugees into the supply chain. And not only that, we know that they're not primarily out there for profit. They're primarily there to deliver their agenda as per the 10 principles of fair trade, which, there they are again. So yes, so these are the principles that we work with Made 51, and alongside the UNHCR protection framework, because refugees can actually be put at increased risk by working in fair trade, because they are then earning an income. They could be exploited, and so we make sure that they're not put at increased risk by being given an income and work. And we also try to make sure that the products that we make are always unique, always high quality, unique products, so they're not taking away work from the host community, that they're creating work, they're creating synergy, they're creating links and relationships. And by working with the fair trade enterprise that's from the host country, again, you're building links, you're building synergy, you're building relationships, which are also important for the refugee community. So this is Womencraft. This is a fair trade enterprise who are based in Tanzania, working with Burundian refugees. And they make sure that a lot of the things that Tradecraft do, making sure that the quality is right, making sure the supply chain's right, making sure that if they need a fair trade advance, they get that fair trade advance. They share the risk with the producer. And so this is something that's not happening in normal general supply chains, where all the risk is put onto the producer. So Made 51's now in 21 countries. We're working with at least 3,000 refugees and growing by the moment. We're working with 30 social enterprises, and we're keeping Stuart in the Tradecraft warehouse pretty busy. We're really concentrating on making very, very beautiful products. We want to change the perception of refugees. We don't want people to buy because of pity. We want people to buy the product because it stands on the shelf for itself, and people look at it and say, here is a beautiful product, I want to buy it. And then they say, okay, oh my goodness, it's a refugee made product and I'm actually helping us in the process. So we want to produce really beautiful products which build on the skills and cultures of the refugees that we're working with. And so we do work with designers, we do work with input to make that happen. And this is kind of a riddle, all the different products we make, from Malaysia to, it's all over Burkina Faso, Kenya, Pakistan, Thailand. And this is a range I'm quite fond of, because it's this is a whole range where it's just a plethora of different refugees making the different products, and we take them and we put them in fancy packaging, we tell the stories, we explain who's made them, but it's only actually when we see the refugees the artisans who've made the product that we really realize the connection and importance these products are to their market. So like Tradecraft, we've also pivoted, and a lot of refugees are making face masks as well. And we market these products at these fairs, again, as like the NEC Birmingham event that I think also Barbara from Love That Stuff goes to. It's an enormous event. This is actually at Ambiente, a similar huge event that we exhibit the products. This is something that the refugee artisans could not do without having a platform to market their products on. And then we've got the shop, which is now running well. And our fulfillment partner in this is Tradecraft. We also work with a US partner, and we have another partner in Hong Kong for the Far East and Middle East. So we're working with huge logistics around delivering and enabling these products to come to market. It's been an incredible steep learning curve. And this is just a very, very quick summary of the work that I'm doing with Made 51, which is part of what I do as a person in Brighton, and working mainly remotely. So that's a very quick whiz through. Made 51, and I must mention also we had a fantastic collaboration with Fair, the lovely Fair Trade shop in Brighton just before Christmas, which was very successful. And although Fair itself is not going to be in the same physical premises, we very much hope that collaboration will continue, and we're hoping some products are going to go out through Love That Stuff maybe this year. So yes, we look forward to all collaborations. So there we go.
Well, thank you very much for that, Christine. It was really interesting. I had no idea that you were working with so many different communities from so many different parts of the world. Yes, really interesting. I'm going to be keeping an eye on what's going on with Made 51 going forward. Thanks a lot.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen now. We're going to go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so what we're doing is we've got some questions. I asked all the presenters, apart from Matt, some questions about how they got into fair trade and various other things. So Christine, are you unmuted to talk out through your bits?
Oh, yes, I didn't realise I was going to talk them through. Okay,
oh,
great.
Well, so you can see in green are the questions I asked everybody, and you've already covered that Richard Evans was the person.
Well, it was Richard Adams and Richard Evans, as the two of them. Yeah. Actually, I've got a moment. I can tell you a story. I went to Practical Action, who are now called, Practical Action, and Richard Evans was there, and he said, go to Tradecraft and go there and talk to them about having a job, but don't go now. Go in a month's time. So I thought, okay, well, went in a month's time, and in a month's time went to Tradecraft. Who should meet me but Richard Evans? So he'd actually, in the meantime, switched from Practical Action to Tradecraft.
Wow.
And that's when I very, very started there in the days before the World Wide Web and internet. It was even not just fax, but some places had telexes.
It was around about it was around about then that I applied for the designer job as well, but I got shortlisted, but I didn't get it. But I wouldn't have married Alex, and I wouldn't be down in Brighton now if I got that. But it would have been a fantastic job. So so I really like your message that as you got into fair trade because you didn't want your gain to be at the expense of other people. And then you sell to the public through the you're representing Made 51 tonight through the website, and it's based in Geneva, so it hasn't had as many problems as some of the local traders have, I think. Just break in and say something if you want to add in. And this, would you like to flesh this out a little bit more?
Okay, yes, of course. I mean, I feel that we have such a huge opportunity, and I think the participants here today are probably all aligned in terms of where we can take the future. if we have the right leadership, the right support and the right encouragement. I think there's such huge potential for fairer. I mean, I absolutely repeat what Matt said. We cannot look at the environment without people, and we cannot look at people without the environment. And they are totally integrated, the two. And that it's really, really important that we build these two building blocks into the future, and that we look now at building green jobs and looking at our supply chains and looking at alternative models. And that's why the fair trade enterprises are so important, that they can be demonstrated to be viable business models that can challenge the norm and can say that we can put people and planet first and make money, and it is a viable option. And we should stand up there and support these options, because by doing so, we are actually challenging that dominant model, which is actually not good for people and it's not good for the planet. So I'm hopeful, so that I do believe that there is a model there that we can support, but I'm skeptical that the support will be in the right place to make this really happen.
Lovely. And I've just put a few slides together with information you gave me. Obviously, you've covered Made 51, so I'll skim through this because that. And then I asked you what were your 5 favourite products, and the bottles got a bit distorted on there. But do you want to say anything about any of these? Why you chose them?
I'm going to say something about Brazil nuts, because I think Brazil nuts are just an amazing nut. And I think everybody in the whole world should know that there are 5 unique plants and animals that make a Brazil nut happen. And that we should all be looking at our Brazil nuts in a different way and appreciating them every day when we eat them. And I'm very fond of an organisation called Equal Exchange. You can buy their products through Infinity. They're really deep delvers into their supply chain, just like Tradecraft are. And I think it's really important that we learn more about where our products come from and how they originate. Yeah, so that's it.
Okay. And then what are your 5 best-selling items? These are the things I think you said.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yep. They are yes, products which we sell. They're I can tell you what they are here. That's a camel made by Syrian refugees out of Jordan. There's a snow leopard made by Afghan refugees in India. It's Afghan refugees again in a different group in India, and then it's Congolese refugees in Kenya and Syrian refugees in Jordan. So these are all refugee-made products that are from Made 51.
I really like those dolls as an embroiderer. They really appeal to me. Those.
Really beautiful, and each one is illustrating the life of a refugee, and it comes with a little story about the life that came onto that illustration, and it's about dreams and hopes for the future.
It's a really lovely project. That I was very taken by that. And then you wanted to draw attention to this particular producer group.
Yeah, so Artisan Links, they're working with Afghan refugees in Pakistan. I was very lucky to go and see them relatively recently. There are hundreds of thousands of Afghan refugees in Pakistan. They do not have the right to work in the same way that Pakistani people do, but they have incredible skills. And by working with the women who do this embroidery, because they have to work together, it becomes not just a method by which they earn a living, which is also incredibly important, but it's also a way where they come together, they exchange knowledge, they upgrade their knowledge of the community, and they come out of their homes in a way that traditional Afghani women living in Pakistan might not. So it's a way for them to actually gain education, gain programs around how the community around them operates. So they're really beautiful products, and I think the work that results out of this synergy of working with embroidery but bringing women together to exchange knowledge is so important.
Lovely. Right, it's Barb now. So Barb, you just need to tell me if I need to move on, but I'll try and work out when it is. So I'm starting with asking you the same questions, but I've put the Nepal film on, and we'll whiz through some of that fairly quickly because we're a little bit over time.
Okay, I'll kind of shall I whiz through?
Yes, I think I need to click them on. So
Okay. So yeah, so basically I I've been a fair trade shopper for a long time. I I think it was probably the early 1990s that I started buying the bad coffee. And I remember actually doing a master's at Sussex in environment development and policy and taking a pack to one of the tutors, and he said, "Oh, I'm not buying that stuff." And I said, "Oh, for goodness sake." He was a geographer, so he was looking at, we were looking at climate change actually, 1996, climate systems, stability and change. And I thought it was a very poor show that he didn't go for fair trade. But basically, you know, one of the main things I got from doing that course, I think, was well, the massive complexity for a start of global climate and global trade and government regulation, and expecting governments to sort of properly adhere to the things that they say they'll do, such as free trade, when we all know that there's nothing free at all about free trade. And we're finding that now with Brexit. You know, people are realizing how many tariffs there are. And when you look at, I'm sorry, I'm probably going completely off topic here, but when you look at things like, you know, tariffs from goods coming in from countries that should be tariff free, like Kenya, there's a whole mix up. So, you know, countries that should be getting a better deal are not. They're paying more than you know, we used to pay for goods coming in from Europe. And that, although that idea of cooperation is good, we should extend that surely to the world. And I think that's the main thing I got, in a way, from the end of my course, was I did actually really want to do layered forestry farming in West Africa, but my family didn't want to go because I just loved that concept of yeah, layered forestry farming. But anyway,
shall we
lots of people who know better about that than I do. But anyway, so I got into fair trade because I thought that trade was a huge engine for reducing poverty, that poverty and the environment are linked, that the consumer should, you know, they should push for change, as Matt was saying. You know, if you've got smaller people as a sort of flagship saying, hey, this works, or hey, this is what people want, then hopefully that will affect change. And I feel it's moving in that direction, but there are lots of complications. And one of the big complications I see is that many of the consumers who would normally go for fair trade are ramping down their consumption. They're saying, I'm not buying this, I'm not buying that, which is great in a way, but then we need huge amounts of other people to come in and say, but I'm going to buy less, but I'm going to buy consciously. And I'm sure you probably all know about the Sustainable Development Goals, but anyway, goal 12 was always responsible consumption. And that seems, you know, like that's where we should head. And that's hopefully where we're going to go. So we maybe should skip ahead to my shop, should we?
Yeah, I'm on the next page already,
Okay.
sorry.
So basically, I can't see it from my screen, but basically I've got a shop at Brighton Marina. I started by doing markets because I taught English to overseas students for ages, including refugees. And then I started up doing fair trade. I buy direct from lots of WFTO groups like Bombolulu workshops in Kenya. And then I started doing markets. And then from that, I was actually offered a shop at the Marina, which was nice, as part of their corporate social responsibility. The Marina is not the place that most people would imagine to go for fair trade, but we have a fantastic space and we've managed to do quite a big remit. So we've got more art in there, more fair trade art. We're trying to do more sort of, more kind of, I don't know, inspirational, so that people come in and go, wow, look at that. Isn't that fantastic? Which they do. And, you know, I'm hoping that we can mimic the Grameen. I want to build a museum to poverty, and I would really like my shop not to be a museum. I would really like people to come in and buy. So if you haven't been, please come and visit us. I don't know where we are. There we are. That's my shop. And we've got stuff from all over, you know, we've got tons of jewelry, and got lovely handmade quilts from a women's group. They're part of Fair Trade Forum India. We've got lovely handmade aprons from Children Nepal, and yeah, we've got.
I'll just give people a minute to read this, I guess. And you'll be able to access it later as well.
Okay.
So your favorite products, I think these are ones that you meant for this.
Yeah, I really like earrings. I mean, I know that it's good to not consume too much, but I think we're all right with a few earrings. And I buy largely from Bombolulu workshops in Mombasa. I bought from them. They were my first group I bought from, and they're a disabled producer group. They employ 160 people in 4 sheltered workshops. Jewelry's doing the best. People Tree buy from them. I've bought from them for 18 years. They're fab. And then we've got this. So these are the best-selling items. We've got cards from Silence workshops in India, who are really, really good at artwork. We've got hand embroidered cards from Calcutta Rescue. Lots and lots of different earrings, some hand woven scarves again from Calcutta Rescue, some hand woven ones from Bihar. We've got some men's shirts, hand woven cotton from Bihar. You know, low impact stuff. Hand loom weaving was a big thing that Gandhi promoted, partly because of independence and being able to, you know, it's a traditional skill, partly because the rural poor really profit from hand loom weaving. It's a traditional art. So yeah, and the lovely Suryamukhi, which is actually sunflower in Nepali. And this is the lovely Pokhara. If you ever go to Nepal, go and say hello. They're lovely.
That should have some writing on it. I don't know why it's not.
Oh, ooh. There's a huge amount of writing, actually. It's a very big presentation from the lovely Dili.
So I'll whiz through it because
and
I've been to Pokhara and Kathmandu as well.
The Nepalese are all very cooperative. It's very nice. They've got a thing called Fair Trade Nepal, and they all really cooperate. That's Kathmandu, I think, is it? Yes, still some shocking conditions, and still child labour. Really, really shocking.
I didn't realise these were floating titles or whatever you call them.
Yeah, well, still, in a lot of cultures, still a lot of very traditional, rather horrible methods of, you know, corporal punishment, and there's a lot of domestic violence. So there's a lot sort of behind the scenes that needs, and Children Nepal do a huge amount of work, you know, campaigning for the rights of the child and doing workshops with people, and they're a brilliant group. And they've asked me if I can find a sponsor for a washable sanitary towel project. So anyone want to step up for that? This is a really good idea. It's because a lot of girls can't afford sanitary towels of any description, so they use rags and leaves. Obviously, when they've got their period, they can't go to school, so they drop out early. And so they've said, will I find a sponsor, which might be a bit of a big ask, but it seems a really, really good idea. So I have to see.
There are a lot of online sewing groups making sanitary packs for people to send out all around the world. I can't tell you the links at the moment, but there are a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
So the beautiful stuff that they make.
Yeah.
I guess you've got some of these in your shop.
I have. Yeah.
And masks, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is them at that time. I don't know quite when this was, but the dates and that. So that's your.
Yes, that was sort of December, I think. Yeah, yeah, December last year.
I'm sorry, that's been a bit whistle stop. We're a bit behind on time, and I'll
no, that's fine. It's fine.
Really quickly with mine as much as I can. Right, so I grew up in Derbyshire in a small town that happened to have one of the very early fair trade shops, and it was called Trade Fair, and the initiative came from Tradecraft to the Christian Aid group there, and it ended up becoming a regular shop. And when I moved back from university or art school, I used to volunteer there on the day off from my own work. And the reason why I got involved with fair trade was because the youth group I went to, I wasn't a Christian at that point, it was a Christian youth group. But I was shown the catalogues, the early Tear Fund ones, which Tradecraft came out of. And I just loved the stuff. It just really sang to me. I guess, I've always felt I was going towards textiles and things like that. And I just could see the argument for the justice and fair stuff and things like that. And it just sat right with me. Oops, sorry, I went back. So I put these in. I've taken those off your site, Matt, this afternoon for this talk. I've been very blessed to visit Nepal, Ghana and Pakistan. I'd love to go and work, and I've done a bit of teaching out there, but not very much and things like that. And just to engage with people and to learn skills and cross-cultural stuff, and just the whole thought of people being able to set up workshops and by learning skills together and learning how to put it together for business that can be sold and things like that. It just all makes perfect sense to me. I'll skip over this because somebody else has gone through it. So I normally sell through stalls in the various churches we're in. Alex, who's my husband, is a United Reformed Church minister, and so we've had multi-group churches. So I've been having to run stalls in 3 or 4 different places, week in, week out, different places. We've been based at Brighthelm recently, and so I've been able to have a regular stall once a week until the pandemic started, and then we had to close everything down. So I thought I'd just show you some sort of pictures of my setup. So this is used to just be a set of shelves in an alcove, and I got them to put more shelves up, and we got the glass doors and storage underneath. So it actually holds a lot of stuff. And Matt was rather surprised when we did the talk in November to see my at-home film where I've got masses of products on. So this is the sort of thing that I do on this is a big sale. Might have been Easter rather than Christmas, I can't remember, but this is a very big area. I have lots of stuff out when it's like that. And of course I can't use this space at all now. And so on top of that, at Christmas, I set up my house downstairs for 3 or 4 days as a stall, and that's quite fun. A lot of work, but it's quite fun. So this is my studio at the bottom and my lounge, my dining room above, and it just gets taken over. So this was the sadness of closing it down. That's what the cafe looks like. It's all closed. It's all very sad. I had to bring all my food home, and I had to clear out all my buttons and beads that were all colourfully displayed underneath some pieces of my artwork, and put out the fair trade stuff. And then in November we did, December I think it must have been, we did this. So you can look up this talk online if you want to see what products I've got in my larger scale. Obviously some of them went at Christmas, but a lot of them are still there. I've got some new ones as well. What do I hope about trade justice? Well, read this later. I'm just thrilled that Tradecraft has done so well, because I've been around long enough to know that it's gone through 2 major crises, and I just really, really wanted it to keep going because I think it's just such an amazing organisation. And it's caused a lot of problems for us as reps. We've had to be really creative in the way we do things. And just put in here that I'm actually moving up to Newcastle in August time. So I shall be getting to see Matt a bit more, I hope. And this is how some of the other reps have done. I've been on the at-risk list, and although I don't think I'm on it anymore, things have changed, but I wasn't allowed to go out. But other people felt they could do this, and it's brilliant, they can. So they've been very creative. So my favourite 5 products, I love anything that's recycled. As a crafts artist person, all the things that are made from recycled things I avid recycler, every single thing, probably a bit obsessive about it. I love Divine Chocolate, although I also love Trade Crafts. Eswatini chutney, my favourite, apart from onion and date sort of homemade stuff, but it's my top two there. The One World calendar, we live our lives by that. We have to have it every year. It hangs up in our kitchen. And the decaf instant coffee. I'm going to, I took these and just filled it out a bit so you can see the products. This is the development of the decaf coffee more recently. Matt, they look so much like Cafe Direct ones, jars, the new ones. I don't know if they are, but they look very much like them. I got onto decaf because when I was pregnant the first time, I felt quite ill drinking caffeine, and there was only Nestle, or really, which I don't buy for ethical reasons, or there was Kenko, and that was very bitter, and so I had to have herbal tea. But second baby, thankfully, Cafe Direct had brought out decaf coffee, and by the third time they brought out decaf tea, which is fantastic. So every sort of Divine, I love Divine Chocolate, and then some of the recycled things, or things that have that sort of recycled thing. Of course, the toilet paper is not recycled, but it's recycled waste from other products that they make it out of, as I understand it. And then these are the 5 things that sell most on my stall. So socks, I get loads and loads of things for socks. I really like the socks, they're lovely designs. I know some of you are waiting for me to get in touch with you about those. We got the Easter eggs coming up soon, and the real Easter eggs are not going to be out in the supermarkets this time. So if you want the story of Easter in the Easter eggs, you need to buy from either Books Alive or other fair traders and maybe Oxfam, people like us, but not the supermarkets. I don't know what the reasoning is behind that. I don't know the story, but that's the situation. And then the eggs and the advent calendars always go really well. And bags, sell a lot of bags. So of course, I love the whole textile side of the gifts as well. And that's the on the right on the blue is this year's Easter eggs. So put your orders in soon to whoever you're getting them from, because the more we know we can order in bulk, the cheaper it is for everyone. Why is it not moving? No. No, I don't know what's happened here. It's let me see if I can go back. Pardon? Okay, sorry. So socks, just a few pictures there. And this is what I chose as my special focus. Matt, you'll be pleased about this, because I have tried for many years to explain to people how things are broken down and why it looks like you're paying so much for stuff at the British end, but it's all to do with the fact that we live in a much more expensive culture, and so it looks proportionately very much worse when you see how much goes out at our end rather than to the producers and things like that. And part of my mission with my work and various other things is to try and get people to understand a bit more about the financial situation that goes behind projects, because I think most of the public does not know that. So I am so proud of Tradecraft being brave in doing this, because it's a message that people need to understand and have a discussion about. And then this is just me. When you get the transcript of this, hopefully it's all recorded okay. And then Carmen, where are you, Carmen?
I am here.
Right.
I am here. Hello. Mine's rather more boring, because I haven't really been involved with fair trade for very long, but I have been aware of it for a long time. And I can't remember what the local health food store was called. But it was in the Lower Marsh in London, sort of behind Waterloo Station. And I remember having a conversation with somebody over, and I also can't remember what the product was. I think it may have been cocoa. So it was all a very, very long time ago. And basically, I was elected as a councillor a couple of years ago, and I'm a member of the Cooperative Party, and the Cooperative Party were running a fair trade campaign. And that's how I got into the steering group, and I'm trying my best to chair it. I mean, I've kind of been, it's been on my radar for quite a while, because when you actually visit places, you can see how little people get paid for these goods, and you can also see and talk to people who are working in the sweatshops for a pittance. So yeah, I don't sell anything other than provide services as a councillor. So we're based in Hove Town Hall, which is down the road from where I live, and we can't go there at the moment. My big hope is that we can actually build on what we're already doing. So in terms of post-pandemic, because there's been a lot of really good responses from the community. People are buying more things that are organic and fairly traded. And I'm hoping that we can use that as a first step towards change and towards being a bit more conscious about what we buy, where it's produced and where it's grown, and who the beneficiaries of the products are. I think it's really important to actually see which communities benefit and which communities disbenefit from what you buy. And then also the shipping, of course. And that's our lovely offices, which I actually quite like. I like monumental concrete architecture. Yeah. So my 5 favourite products, I drink Co-op 99 tea 3 cups every day. So that's my total top one, and I absolutely love it. I like the pink Shiraz wine that the Co-op do. Also the fair trade chocolate. I actually have 2 cooperative stores within less than 10 minutes walk from my door. So I spend a lot of time in there and don't actually shop in Tesco's or anywhere like that. And then I like some stuff from the Tradecraft shop as well, and particularly keen on the cotton bamboo mixed t-shirts and socks, of course. Socks, Louise.
Yes. I'm sorry there are no pictures on that. I forgot to look up pictures online for those.
Yeah, no, they're just amazing. So yeah, so we've got council policy, and I just showing an extract here of what we took to our council's committee just a few months ago. So I'm absolutely determined to not let people forget that we are a fair trade city and their commitment. Fortunately, I am on a members working group, which is called the procurement group. Sounds very unsexy, but it does have a very big influence about how we buy things. And I think some of the, it links back into some of the points about fair trade in schools and fair trade in offices that Matt made right at the beginning of his speech. And also it makes reference to sustainability. And again, Matt talked about sustainability as being one of the really key issues for this year. So this is back to the environment theme. So anyway, that's it. That's it from me.
You just wanted to flag up the
Rwenzori, yeah. If we could flag that's been an amazing. So we've decided to twin with them, and unfortunately, I missed the official bird friendly certification event because I had a council meeting. But anyone who's interested, please do have a look on the website. And you know, it will be online soon, we hope. The photo that's shown of me, I'm wearing a fairly traded scarf in that's made from old saris by women in India. So I love that.
So then I've just got a few slides of other Brighton Hove people. So Siobhan, I'm really pleased that you're on there somewhere. I don't know if you want to say anything. Well, Siobhan is on the meeting somewhere.
Oh, hi, Louise. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't prepared to talk at all, but
no, you don't have to. I just offered you if you wanted to. I took a load of stuff off your website. I had a bit of a chat with Christine about.
Thank you. That's great.
I just wanted to honour you because you're a big, important fair trade person in the city.
Thanks.
I know you've got to move because of your landlord selling up. So I hope you're good.
Yes, yeah, we're not sure what's happening, but yeah, I'll be updating people most probably within the next month about next steps. We're definitely going to continue online. Yeah, and beyond that, I'll let everyone know.
And this is a lovely interview with Christine, who talked right after Matt, and with you. Well worth watching. And the stuff looks amazing. I'm just longing to be able to come and see it for real. Here are some pictures.
Thank you.
And then the other person who has been mentioned indirectly, but not by name, another Brighton person, is Atif. And I did ask him if he wanted to take part, but I haven't heard back from him at all. So next person who sees him, just tell him he's been flagged up.